أهلا وسهلا بحضراتكم في لقاء مع واحد من نجوم العالم، نجوم هوليود بالموراي. بنبدأ حوار خاص جدا حصلنا عليه محسوب بالدقيقة، ومعي المترجم الأستاذ علي الأسقم. سيد موراي، أهلا وسهلا بك في بلد عربي. فيلم أمريكي في المغرب عن أفغانستان، ماذا يعني؟
Well, we filmed the movie in Morocco because it became a little bit too difficult to film a movie in Afghanistan.
ما هو وجه الشبه ما بين المغرب وأفغانستان؟ هل درست أفغانستان جيدا؟
Similarities between Morocco and Afghanistan. Knowing both countries, can you tell us?
Well, the landscape, the physical landscape, the mountains and the deserts are similar, and they can look similar.
درست أفغانستان جيدا قبل أن تبدأ هذا الفيلم، لابد أن نجم كبير تعايش مع هذا الواقع. كيف رأيت علاقة أمريكا بأفغانستان، غزو الأمريكي لأفغانستان؟
You have certainly studied Afghanistan before shooting the movie. What is your opinion about the American presence in Afghanistan?
Well, that's a very complicated question, of course. Just as an American, I feel, I always feel sad when American soldiers have to go anywhere, because it's life and death. It must be even more unfortunate for the Afghan people who've had the Russians, and they've had so much trouble for the last, 25 years, anyway, even longer. They are, a bold nation of their own, and really can't be conquered. No, I don't know who's trying to conquer them. We're not trying to conquer. I think the Americans think they're making some peace there. It's a beautiful place, and I wish that, and I guess maybe what the movie is trying to say is I wish we weren't in this situation there.
سيد موراي، البعض قد يرى أنك تحاول تبييض وجه أمريكا بهذا الفيلم. هذا المكتشف المواهب، مكتشف الجواهر، مكتشف الغناء في أرض غارقة في الإرهاب، هو تبييض وجه أمريكا بعد أن غرقت في الوحل.
Some people think that through this movie you're trying to brush up the image of America, showing Americans going there to actually discover talent and bring in some joy into such a difficult situation.
Well, I think I don't fool myself that I could personally brush up the image of America. I think the idea of finding some joy, I wish that finding some joy, it's not like he was going there, it was an accident that he discovered the talent there anyway. In the film, it's an accident, an accidental discovery. But the idea of finding some joy there, that doesn't sound like a bad idea to me, finding some joy. And the image of America, I think, is, it really, for me, it's been, I feel like our image around the world has deteriorated in my lifetime, in my own lifetime, that we're looked at as, whereas once upon a time we were a young, fresh, independent country, now we're looked at as like a big bully in some places. And in America, that's difficult for people to comprehend. They think, well, aren't we helping, or are we helping some situation? They feel like they're helping some situation, yet because the war is not happening in our country, we do not know the worst of it, like the Afghans do. If I may, when I was a young man, in my country, we were fighting a war in Vietnam. And at that time, I was part of a peace movement. People that thought the idea of fighting a war, why were we fighting this war against these people? We really didn't have any any beef with them particularly. We thought we were fighting some sort of war against communism, which back then was what we thought we were supposed to do. And that was a war that, did a lot of damage and really shook people up in our country, because it felt like a war where many, many lives were lost, American lives and Vietnamese lives were lost in the name of nothing, and nothing changed. There was no progress, there was no peace. The peace was, finally people just gave up the war, And now, that was when I was in my 20s, when I was a young man. Now, these wars that we fight in Iraq and Afghanistan, they're absolutely baffling to me. I don't understand why we're there. There's a fear that we're fighting because of its money, because it's oil or something, but I don't know what we're fighting. Afghanistan seems to me like a country that deserves, like anyone does, deserves to be left alone. But they have a war within a war in their own country, I believe. There's conflict there, and for some reason the American might seems to think, oh well, we can solve that problem with, and I've yet to see the proof of it yet. I don't know who's happy about. I don't know who's happy about us being there, particularly. Well, would you tell me what you think?
أنا اليوم أسمعك ويقولون لي أن الوقت المخصص لي قد انتهى، فهل تسمح لي بسؤالين؟
Oh, it's okay. They're not going to go anywhere until I leave anyway.
نعم.
So it's okay. We have time. We have time. It's okay.
أوكي. رأيي أنا أتفق معك.
But this is part of the reason I came here. This is really the number one reason I came to Marrakesh, not to get a tribute for my film work. I want to know what the Muslim people think of this film. That's why I'm here. So you tell me. Yes, you're the first person to ask me these questions. You're the first person.
نعم.
أنت أول شخص يسألني هذا السؤال، فإذا أريد أن أسمع رأيك.
نعم. إذا كنت تسألني فأنا أقول لك أننا في بلادنا نرى عموم الشعب والمثقفين أن الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية تصنع الإرهاب في المنطقة ثم تحاربه. كل هذا من أجل أهداف اقتصادية. الإدارة الأمريكية كل ما تفكر فيه هو صالح المواطن الأمريكي وحديثها عن الحريات في العالم وعن حقوق الإنسان مجرد كذبة كبرى. هذا ما نرى.
You think that yourself, though. I mean, you do.
ورأي كثيرين في بلادي.
It's my opinion and the opinion of a lot of people in my country.
Well, that's okay. Well, if it's true, I've met the President of the United States. I think he is a good man. So if it's true what you say, then what's happening is there's machinations, whether it's in the secret, the secret military society or something. But it's interesting you say this because the man who plays the father in the film is someone that worked with the American Army in Afghanistan. And he was a liaison, and he believes in our film, but he also said to me, I said, because while we were making the film, ISIS appears in the world. And I'm like, well, where did they come from? And he said that he thought there were only two places it could possibly have come from Saudi Arabia or from the United States. And to me, we don't get this kind of information in America, like what you say, that we're creating this terrorism. I mean, I had a good friend die in the World Trade Center when it was hit by a plane. And there are people in America that said that was a conspiracy, that the Americans did that. It seems so far-fetched that it would happen that way. If it's true, the whole situation is much more nightmarish than I believe it to be. And if you're correct, and there's, General Eisenhower, who was a great American soldier, warned the country about the military-industrial complex when he left office. And who knows, there are many rooms in my father's mansion. Have you ever heard that scary phrase? If it's true, I think it's a horrible thing. Now, if our film is, I don't know how do you change the minds, those minds, because those minds aren't even visible. Those are invisible minds, these forces. If they're real, they're invisible. How do we combat that? How do we counteract that in the world?
نعم. إنه السحر الذي انقلب على الساحر. أرجو أن تترجم له هذا المعنى.
It's magic that actually turned against magic.
Well,
هل تسمح لي بالوقت؟ مساعديك يقولون أن الوقت قد انتهى تماما.
He's told that his time is up.
Okay, well, I want to say that there was no American military involved in the making of our film. They was made by Americans and Moroccans and some English and some French. And there was no plan to foment terrorism. It was a hope that there could be an understanding, some sort of conversation like ours, where we could say, you know, speak directly. I'm very pleased to hear your comments.
سؤالي الأخير وهو سؤال شخصي أختم به هذا الحوار. نحن في بلادنا العربية نكتفي بإنجاب طفل أو اثنين فقط. بالنسبة لي كان مفاجأة أنك من أسرة كبيرة. أنتم 9 أشقاء وأنت لك 6 من الأبناء. بماذا تفسر هذا؟ هل أنتم أو أنت تحب العائلة الكبيرة؟
Well, it's worked for me.
هذا كان من حظي.
It's worked for me. I'm probably, I'm a product of my parents mostly, you know, and whatever I was given at birth, whatever I was given. My parents had 9 children, and I grew up with all these kids in one house, and I did enjoy it, even though it seemed like we were always fighting for the attention of our parents because there were so many kids. And how I ended up with 6 sons, I don't know. I don't know. I never tried to stop having children or tried to have children. They just came to me. They just came to me. And I feel like, although I don't have 9, I have 6, which is more than 2. And if I can take care of them, that's really what that's sort of my number one job, is to take care of them. It's more than my career if I can raise them somehow, so they can stand upright. That's what I'm hoping.
ليس هناك طريق واحد إلى الله، هذه مقولة موراي. ما هو طريقه إلى الله؟
What is your way to God?
Well, my way to God is, it's not necessarily a specific religion, but it is a belief that there's an obligation, we have an obligation to develop ourselves, to raise our spirituality, to raise our consciousness, to promote our consciousness, and to elevate ourselves in the hope of giving back to God, passing back to God what He has sent this way. There's a sort of a chain of events of force that comes from above, that comes and lands in us, and we as humans are unique, that we can receive it and we can transmit it away. You know, we can receive a blessing and we can have it transform us, and that transformation gives something back to the whole system, the whole universe.
موراي بشكرك جدا انك كنت على شاشة CBC، كنت سعيد بوجودك معنا.
On CBC and for being so generous with us.
Thank you. I've enjoyed this experience with you.
Thank you. بشكرك جدا.